All right, guys. The last wild card contender I'm going to look at in the NFC here is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're definitely the hardest team to get a handle on here. And it feels like it can't be real, right? Like, how can the Bucks be good? How can this Bucks team be good? It doesn't make any sense. In some ways, it even makes less sense than the Rams being average. This Tampa Bay team was kind of average last year when they had Tom Brady quarterback. I know Brady didn't play well, but they lose Brady. They're still paying him a bunch of money because of the all the dead cap hits they pushed out into future years. They get in Baker Mayfield, who you know is probably going to be one of the worst starters in the league, and they don't really do all that much to improve their team over last year. In fact, it seems like they're taking a step back. And you look at it and you go, okay, this is a bad team. They didn't even get rid of Todd Bowles. Todd Bowles is a terrible coach, and they didn't get rid of him. So, how is this team going to be good? But I guess we got to talk about it because here we are. They're 4 games in. They are 3-1. They have the same record as the Seahawks, and their one loss came to a team that is in the running for best team in the NFL, an undefeated team. So you take a look at Tampa Bay. You take a look at what they're bringing to the table here, what they can kind of bring to the argument table. They've got a below average offense, but not a bad offense, right? Which is really surprising. And they've got a good defense so far. Now, because they've only played 4 games, and because, quite frankly, the teams they've beaten so far this year, at least a couple of them, are really bad teams. I don't know how much we can learn from that. I don't know if we should be looking to that and going, oh, well, we can make some grand determination about this team based off this relatively small sample size against teams that are both extremely bad and, in one case, extremely good. But their offense is 20th in the league. Their defense is ranked 8th in the league. Um, Really, the issue with their offense has been their running game. They have no running game to speak of. They cannot run the ball at all. They maybe have the worst rushing attack in the entire NFL. They run the ball for 3 yards a carry. Rashad White has proven to be completely useless in that capacity. Honestly, their offense is being kept afloat by, of all things, Baker Mayfield and that passing attack. Baker Mayfield has looked pretty good through 4 games, and that's why this feels like it can't be real, because we have an extended period of time with Baker Mayfield getting to know him. We feel pretty comfortable that he can't possibly be an actually good quarterback. So it doesn't feel real. But as of right now, he is playing very well. He's been sacked 4 times in 4 games, playing behind a not very good offensive line. 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, almost 70% completion. So, by the way, shout out to Dave Canales. He's the offensive coordinator over there right now. Excuse me. He's the former Seahawks wide receiver coach, and for a short period of time was the quarterback coach. So, Baker Mayfield is having what looks to be the best season of his career under Canales. And of course, a big part of that goes to Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. Those guys are as good as it gets as far as a 1 and 2 punch at wide receiver. But Tom Brady had these receivers last year, and he did not play that well. So you got to give it up to Baker. Baker is playing effective football right now, but it doesn't feel very sustainable. And once the bottom drops out on Baker, there's nothing going on here. They have no rushing attack. Their offensive line isn't that good. And they have a defensive minded head coach. So if Baker starts to slip, there's not going to be anything to lift him up. So I think a lot of people, reasonably so, are kind of looking at this Bucks thing thinking this isn't going to last. Now, their defense may last. If you look at their defense, they've been good against the pass. They've been okay against the run. Um, excuse me. Um, it's not a great defense, but so far it is top 10 in points allowed. They're obviously very much riding the game they just played against the Saints a couple of weeks ago, where they allowed 9 points, and that was with Derek Carr playing basically the whole game. Now, Derek Carr didn't play well, but maybe to a certain extent we kind of forgot how good this Tampa Bay defense can be. They've got a lot of really nice pieces on there. Barrett, Vita Vey, Winfield Jr., Devin White, of course. They've got a really nice grouping at linebacker. And it's a defense that so far has come to play. For whatever Todd Bowles' flaws are as a head coach, he is a good defensive mind, which he has proven multiple times in the past. And he has those guys really kind of clicking on all cylinders right now. So defensively, I can say that it feels like there's some pretty sustainable stuff. Don't forget about Levante David, by the way, the old man chugging along just kind of like how Bobby Wagner is chugging along. So you look at the Tampa Bay PFF page, you try to get an overall feel for where they are. It it really just comes back to they do have a good defense because there are a lot of quality pieces on this side of the ball. I forgot about Carlton Davis the third, by the way, earlier, but he's been good for them. But offensively, it's just been the tackles have played fairly well. It looks like Mayfield has played well, and the receivers are playing really good football. So, will this last enough for the playoffs? That's kind of the part that I'm trying to figure out here because at the end of the day, you look at this schedule. All right, you've got Detroit, you've got Buffalo, you've got San Francisco, and I guess you have Jacksonville. Everything else feels winnable, right? Like this is not a bad schedule. You've got Atlanta. You got two games against Atlanta. Could go either way. Carolina should be able to win those games. You got Carolina twice, actually. You've got Houston, Tennessee, Indianapolis. These are a bunch of games that can go one way or the other. Green Bay. Some people would say the Saints game, and honestly, yeah, I do think the Saints are better than the Bucks, but Tampa Bay already went into New Orleans and won handily in a game where Derek Carr played most of the game. Like this was not a Jameis Winston game. Carr played all but what was it? Like I think there were two pass attempts that were made by Saints players that were not Derek Carr, if I'm recalling correctly, something like that. So they went into New Orleans and punched him in the mouth. So you can't even count them out against New Orleans. And there is going to come a point where we look at this Bucks team and maybe even wonder, could they take the division? And that sounds crazy based on where we were a month and a half ago. But at the same time, we knew this division was going to be really bad, and a team might be able to win it with 9 wins or 10 wins. And you look at this, Tampa Bay, they've already banked 3 wins. They're getting Carolina twice. That's probably 5 wins. You got to figure they can farm a few wins out of playing Atlanta, Houston, Tennessee, and Indianapolis. And then they got to maybe make something happen against Green Bay. Suddenly, boom, they're at 10 wins, and they didn't even need to sweep the Saints. So, if I had to pick a team in the NFC South to win the division, I would say the Saints because I think they're the best team and I think they have the easiest schedule. But the Buccaneers have a relatively soft schedule as well, and they've already won the head to head. One of the games in the head to head. Obviously, they haven't played the second one yet. But this could actually be a division winning team. I'm still going to go with the Saints, and I'm going to say Tampa Bay will be competing for a wild card spot. But the uncomfortable reality is the teams in that division, while they will beat up on each other a little bit, are facing such a weak schedule overall. They should be able to farm wins, and they should be able to threaten a playoff spot. So I'm sitting here thinking to myself, okay, Dallas has a good chance at a wild card spot. And if I assume the Saints win the division, Atlanta and Tampa Bay can get a wild card spot because they have soft schedules. That's your 3 wild card teams right there with no Seattle. So it's obviously way too early to sound the alarm, but I'm looking at this, I'm thinking this through, and if Baker Mayfield doesn't fall off and Tampa Bay continues to win at least most of the games that they should win, they're going to be in the mix, just like Atlanta's in the mix. So somebody who is currently taking a playoff spot for granted right now may end up losing out on it. It could be Dallas and it could be Seattle. Those are the 2 teams right now that I think a lot of people look at them and go, oh, they'll get a wild card. Yeah, they're not good enough to win the division. They're not as good as Philly or, in our case, San Fran. They'll get a wild card. There are a couple teams in the NFC South that may end up farming their weak schedule to do something about that. So that's my thoughts on Tampa Bay, and that's my thoughts on this whole situation just in general. Um, it this feels like the least sustainable because it's depended heavily on Baker Mayfield playing really good football. But at the same time, this defense is legitimate. They have a lot of really good players on this defense who are earning their money right now. And that defense should be top 10 throughout the season unless the offense completely collapses and starts putting them in terrible situations. So I guess it's not a bad bet to have to bet against Baker Mayfield. If Tampa Bay falls out of it, then the path seems pretty clear as of right now, right? The path seems pretty clear for Dallas, Seattle, and Atlanta to get the wild card spots. But I'd like to see Baker actually start taking those L's before I start making my playoff plans. So that's the third team I wanted to take a look at in this kind of early preview of potential wildcard contenders. So there are obviously going to be other teams that get involved, like a team like Green Bay. They're 2-3. They could get involved into it. Minnesota has played a lot of close games and lost them. At 1-4, they're mostly done, but don't count them out completely yet. At 1-4, the Vikings, I can't completely rule them out yet. A team like, I mean, I already talked about the Rams, but a team like the Rams could get involved if they string together some wins here. But right now, these are the three teams that, as a Seahawks fan, I'm looking at, thinking to myself, okay, we need to get one of these teams out of here so we can secure that wild card spot. All right, I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks. Let me know what you think about this Tampa Bay team. Let me know what you think about what they've done so far. Again, shout out to Dave Canales. He's doing awesome over there. And unfortunately, I have to root for it to not keep up. See y'all later.